Hello, everyone. This is Luca from 1851 Franchise, and today I am joined by Matt Genova, president of Next Act Franchise Advisors. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope the same is for you.
I am. I'm doing great. I'd love to start by just kind of hearing a little bit about you and your background. Can you give us a quick intro on you?
Sure. I'll give you a quick summary. My entire career was spent in multimedia advertising, sales, and sponsorships for ESPN. I also worked for CNN for some time. So, I pretty much matched up Fortune 500 companies with either their current customers or new customers. I left that industry about 5 years ago. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I always wanted to do something on my own. And I wound up stumbling into franchise consulting after looking at franchises. I loved the person that I worked with, and I felt that, my background and skills were easily transferable to this. So where I was helping companies meet customers, I'm now helping people meet franchises and pick the right ones that make sense.
That's interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting that you were working with a broker and then ended up becoming one yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah, never thought so.
Yeah, wow, that's great. Cool. So that's good. A little intro on you. So we could dive into these questions here. What would you say, in your experience over the past few years, what would you say makes you successful as a franchise broker?
Oh, thanks for that question. I would say first and foremost is I have a responsibility to both sides, right? I need to make sure I listen to the candidate, to make sure I understand who they are and what they want, but also understand what the franchisors want in the candidates that I bring them. So I don't have a vested interest in any one of the 550 franchises that I work with. So first and foremost, it's the knowing that I have a responsibility to both sides and no vested interest. Also, I have take pride in listening skills, as well as the ability to ask probing questions, to really have people think about themselves, take stock, take inventory. I use a tool that FranServe provided me, which is called the RISE personality assessment, RISE being recognizing innovative and successful entrepreneurs. And it really gets at 15 key traits that every successful entrepreneur possesses. And it allows a person to gauge themselves against that. I use that as the start of my conversation to really know that a person is right for franchising. And also, I understand that and respect that owning a business is not for everyone. So when I talk to someone, it's not about, I got to find that person the right thing. That is always there, but it's more really about making sure that person is right for business ownership. Then we move into the next thing. I'm not afraid to push back on any answers that I receive or preconceived notions that people express to me. And I'd say lastly is the ability to storytell, to be able to take these ideas and concepts and business models and tell a story about them that makes sense and resonates with a potential candidate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very well said. Kind of building off something you mentioned there about, making sure candidates are right for franchise ownership. What advice do you have for people who are wanting to become a franchise owner for the first time? What's some general advice you have?
Sure. That's sometimes the hardest thing to police and enforce. But I would say number one, and I tell everybody in my first conversation, that they must be ready. And by ready, I mean mentally ready, emotionally ready, and of course, financially ready. I can help them assess whether they're ready or not, but they have to be ready. Two is they must be brutally honest with themselves. When they start to do that introspection and self-evaluation, they need to know what they're good at and not good at, what job functions they like to do and not like to do. How would other people grade them on things like that? They have to be brutally honest and not couch anything, because you want everything to be exposed, or they want everything to be exposed when they go through that self checklist. They need to have all decision makers involved in the process from the very beginning. It's very frustrating for them to really fall in love with an idea, and then somebody that might be involved, it could be a spouse, it could be a relative, it could be a financial backer, immediately squashes the idea because it's the first time they're hearing about it, they don't like it, they didn't go through the process. And I'd say lastly, you have to be open-minded. This becoming a business owner, owning a franchise, isn't about just doing what you like. It's also about doing stuff that makes sense based on your background and your skill set. So sometimes you will explore opportunities that you never expected. Never thought about. You never even knew a franchise existed in that industry, because you need to have an open mind and be open to the different types of businesses that match your skill set.
Definitely. Awesome. I guess jumping onto the franchisor side, what advice do you have for franchisors who are wanting your help on awarding more franchisees and finding these qualified prospects?
For me, it is definitely making sure that wherever they put their information, and they post it for consultants like me, that information is fresh, it's up to date, it has the newest tips and tricks and innovations, key performance statistics. Also, for me to have all of the collateral that's available out there, everything from brochures and one sheets, guides, manuals, videos, interviews, things like that, everything that will help. And this goes back to, in the very beginning, me tell my story is going to be there, is only going to help. You'd be shocked that there are some information I delve into on a brand, and the information hasn't been updated since 2017, let's say. Understand, everyone's busy on all sides, but for me, having the most up-to-date of everything makes my job easier in getting and attracting the right people to the brand.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, building off that, the next question I had here, what are some ways that franchisors can maybe better communicate with you during the onboarding process or during your, relationship?
I would say right now, I think communication is definitely at an all-time great, and the pandemic forced us into that, I believe, because a lot of the in-person events were down. But I believe what's become very successful and should be done more of are these consultant discovery days. A lot of franchisors have adopted it. If those that have not, my suggestion is to do that. Really take a consultant through a mini scaled down version of what a candidate goes through, number one. I would say email lists are fantastic. I made a commitment to make sure I read every email that I get from a franchisor. Again, looking for all those little tidbits of information, new, interesting, differentiated, that I can use for my story. And I'd say those two things are probably the best ways.
Great. Awesome. Wrapping up here, the last question here is a little more broad, but what would you say overall, what does winning look like for you as a franchise broker?
Yeah, good question. I liken winning for me as a consultant to be when all parties that are directly involved in the situation feel as if their lives have been changed for the better. That to me is winning. So in my case, you would have a franchisor, you might have a lender involved, you'll obviously have the candidate and the other decision makings involved. And remember, it's not just that, hey, guess what? They became a franchisor of the brand that they were exploring. Everyone might realize in that situation that the brand wasn't right or they're not right for business ownership. That too then falls into winning, because in that case, everyone's life has changed for the better because they've learned something about themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's an awesome quote to end on. That's great. Great. Well, that was all the questions here. So thank you so much, Matt, for chatting with us at 1851. This has been amazing.
This was great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the questions. Good luck and stay